Here in Cato Street, an inoffensive-looking mews in Marylebone in London, one of the more dramatic events in British history took place 200 years ago. It was here on the evening of Wednesday the 23rd of February 1820 that a group of a dozen or so Bow Street runners, the forerunners of the modern police force, stormed into the stable at the bottom of this building and made their way up into the hayloft above to apprehend the conspirators who were meeting there on their way to go and assassinate the British cabinet, who were meeting for dinner at Lord Harrowby's house in Grosvenor Square. The geography of Cato Street is really important in understanding the events that night. The property lies at the east end of Cato Street and backs out onto a road which at the time was called John Street. It was there that there was a public house called the Horse and Groom, where the Bow Street runners gathered together with the magistrate Richard Gaunt. They were expecting reinforcement from the cavalry who were coming over from Portman Street Barracks. Unfortunately, there's another exit out of Cato Street, and it was to that far end exit from Cato Street that the cavalry went. So it was that without the reinforcement of the cavalry, the Bow Street runners were left with no choice but to swoop in and to capture the collaborators before they went on their way. Local resident Caroline Friedman has organised a day of community events on Cato Street to mark the bicentenary.
Well, what we want to do is to recreate the street scene of the 1820s. So we're going to have entertainers, we're going to have traditional food, pie and mash, and we want people to walk into the street and feel as if they're back in the 1820s. We have a soundscape, so you'll hear all the sounds and noises, the hustle and bustle, because the streets were incredibly busy in those days. So there'll be all the different sounds, the cobblestones with horses clip-clopping along, and we actually have a 22-seater horse-drawn tram, and that will be giving rides around the block. So you can imagine what it was like in those days to be travelling. We're also going to have an entertainer. There were lots of entertainers, lots going on the street. So we'll have somebody singing traditional songs. For example, John Peel was the song of the moment, #1 in the hit parade then. So we're having that. And everybody locally is involved. The local pubs are doing conspiracy cocktails, traditional sing-songs. And we have somebody, the Coldstream Guards were involved with the actual foiling of the plot, but they turned up rather late. In fact, so late that it turned out that the Bow Street runners, who were the forerunners of the police, they had gone into the building. But we're having a Coldstream Guard who will be telling the story of the event.
The Bow Street runners knew to come to Cato Street because the Home Secretary, Lord Sidmouth, had managed to inveigle a spy into their midst. George Edwards had gained the trust of the conspirators, and the government arranged for a newspaper to advertise the intention of the cabinet to have a dinner at Lord Harrowby's home. So it was that Edwards, having brought the attention of the conspirators to the newspaper advert, arranged for the plotters to meet together in Cato Street ahead of their grisly work of assassination.
It seems the older people know about Cato Street, but younger ones don't seem to know about the conspiracy. And that seems strange because Guy Fawkes is incredibly well known, and this was a plot, as you know, to murder the Prime Minister and all the cabinet members. And had it succeeded, coming in the wake of the Peterloo massacre a year earlier, the impact would have been enormous. In fact, Britain, as we know it today, would have changed tremendously because there are all these people who felt disenfranchised. Hardly anybody voted in those days. Of course, women couldn't, but men, not all men could. You know, so people felt that they wanted a voice. And had it succeeded, who knows what could have happened.
The minute the Bow Street runners stormed into the stable at Cato Street, they met resistance from a guard who was on duty. They made their way past him and then up a ladder into the hayloft above. They immediately encountered resistance from the collaborators, including from Arthur Thistlewood, who was widely acknowledged as their leader. Thistlewood took his sword and plunged it immediately into the chest of one of the Bow Street runners. a man called Richard Smithers. His final words before expiring are recorded as, "Oh God, I am," as the blade entered into his chest. It was one of the more dramatic moments in an already dramatic evening of events.